Well, hey church, hope you're having an incredible week so far. What we thought we'd do is because, a lot of people are at the cottage on the weekends, maybe enjoying the weather, we thought we'd take some time midweek to really just summarize what we've been talking about on Sundays. And I want to encourage you, I'm going to be giving kind of a condensed format of what we were talking about this past Sunday, but definitely check out the stream. It streams at 10 a.m. on Sundays, but it's on our YouTube page and Facebook the whole way through. But wherever you're at, we're hoping that you're having an incredible time, that you're enjoying the summer. It is beautiful out. But this week we were talking about this idea of community and the fact that we really ultimately, I think, have a complicated relationship with community. And the interesting thing is when you look at studies in Canada, we know that there's implicit benefits to being part of a community, whether that's a sports community, an arts community, a religious community. And yet statistics show that even within religious circles, people have this relationship with community where they see its benefits, but they're not sure they want to be a part of it. And so I think there's so many different reasons for that. But ultimately, what we talked about this Sunday was the fact that we believe, and I believe, that the church community is the greatest community that you can be a part of. And so with that, we really explored, firstly, what are some people's reservations with being part of a church community? I think for many people, they see an institution and not individuals that make it up. And so already there's distance between having and being part of a church community. As well, I think for a lot of people, they look at it as an event and not an everyday. And so they see church as just an event to go to on a Sunday, but not a family that we're called to be a part of. And thirdly, I think, and this is really hits all of us at different times in our lives, is that sometimes the church community just isn't a priority with all of the demands and competing interests on life. But ultimately, I really believe that if the church is something Jesus died for, if it was something that was essential and integral to his mission, then it's obviously a community that we want to be a part of. And so with that, we really talked about what are three things that the church community can uniquely offer to people. And firstly, I think it engages our faith. I love what Pastor Julie says is that, in a church service, we can borrow each other's faith. And I love the fact that whether it's on our chats and writing down, when there's prayer requests, people writing, hey, we're standing with you, we're praying with you, or in our physical services, being able to pray together and worship together and sing together. I think all of those things in a world where we can so quickly forget where we come from and what we're about, that when we can come together in a church community, it brings us back and anchors our faith to remember, even if we don't have the strength to do it, that there's a group of people that are believing God for something, and so maybe that means I can believe too. Secondly, I think that the church enriches our lives like no other community can. I love that in Acts 2, it says that the early church didn't just give themselves to prayer and to the disciples' teaching, but also they gave themselves to fellowship, which is koinonia. It means this mutual self-sacrifice. So it was people serving each other. And if there's any place to get over your ego, if there's any place to make your life about somebody else, it's the church. And I think that that's actually where growth happens in such a fundamental way, because we take our eyes off of our own issues and we start to be about somebody else. And that's where the church community can uniquely offer, I think, just so much growth and enrichment in our lives. And then finally, I think that it also enlarges our relationships, that you get to be able to connect and engage and rub shoulders with people that you may not ever rub shoulders with. And the church has this beautiful way of breaking down whether it's class, economics, race, and it brings together a whole bunch of people all gathered around Jesus. And I think when you put all of those things together, it creates this beautiful place where God can move. And just like it says in Acts 2 in the early church, that there can be this miraculous generosity and joy and awe that takes root in people's lives. And that's the beauty of the church community. And ultimately, I think that we have to realize that church is greater than the sum of its parts. It's greater than just the preaching or just the worship or just a prayer moment. It actually has to do with you and me coming together, being part of this community, sharing our lives together. And I think that's where the world can see unity in the amidst discord, where it can see togetherness in a world that wants to divide. And ultimately in John 17, like we talked about this past Sunday, I think that's the place where Jesus creates unity, commands a blessing, and creates a community that can grow you and change the world. And so I want to encourage you today, or maybe this week, to be thinking about a couple things. And we want to leave you just with a few questions for reflection. Is firstly, what's your relationship to community? Have you ever given that thought? Maybe for you, there's been reservations about community and you're not sure how to engage with it. Maybe there's been hurt in the past. Secondly, and I think this is really an important question, is how can you be community to somebody else? How can you engage your faith and really create that sense of relationship for somebody else? And thirdly, in the all-important question, what is God's heart for the church? What's God's heart for this church community? And I think when we link up with what God's heart is for it, it can captivate us and engage us in a totally different way. And so again, I want to encourage you, maybe you're on vacation, but I think these are some incredible things to think about and to delve into in your time of reflection, or just maybe during the week, to really start to engage with this idea and start to understand how you can be part of a community. God bless.